Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Conversations with me, Kristie Clayton. I am incredibly excited to have John on our episode today, where we're going to talk about some fun stuff. So just so you know, if you don't know me well, I am Kristie Clayton, the visionary of all things Herverse. Herverse is an acronym for Helping Executives Rise, and we do that in three ways. We have Female Executive Mastermind, which is a community for second in command leaders. We have the Lead Her community, which is a community for women who sit on the executive leadership team. And then we provide coaching and mentorship through Excel Her Rate. John, welcome.
Happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. When I said I wanted to have guests, you were one of the first people on my list. So I'm so excited to talk with you today. I'd love to kind of turn it over to you for just a second and let you introduce yourself and who you are.
Well, Kristie, thanks. And by the way, when you brought this up, it was, I think I responded within 5 minutes or less, maybe even seconds, saying that I'd love to do it. John Glon, right? I am a 100% human, flawed and beautiful and all those other things. I have a current thriving business, manufacturer's rep firm called Great Lakes Essential Power. And what we'll get into a little bit is kind of my budding future. I'm a business coach and a facilitator for all things working genius, and just curious about everything in life.
I love it. I love it. So, John, that's where I'd love to start our conversation is I know you are a business operating system enthusiast, right? And
Absolutely.
It is really truly started because you were using an operating system to run your business. You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've run on EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, for about 6 years. And how that came to be was, we would grow. Our business is about 11 years old now. So for the first 4 years, we doubled every year, and we couldn't really say why. And ultimately, it was just a bunch of work and grit, and good things happening. But we really didn't have any processes. Really didn't know how the future looked. Really running ragged. Not at home as much as I'd like to be. Wasn't present at home as I'd like to be. And we stumbled across EOS, met with Gino, and it really, the rest is kind of history. Allowed me really to, one, we've grown. We've had obviously some tough times, and but having the right people in the right place and the right planning had allowed me to step away from the business and allow my team to really run the business, going from being everything reliant on me to find the answers, to respond, to sell, being all of the revenue. That's a journey, having that go away. And there's a lot of ego that goes along with that.
Yeah.
I see every asset of that when I see, now my, just as yours is, right. Our community now is all entrepreneurs, and the story, just, you hear it over and over and over again. Yeah. The grind, the hustle, the beauty of entrepreneurship, but then also what it can turn into, right? Doing it by yourself can't go forever.
Yeah, the total irony too, right? Because a lot of us get into owning our own business because we want freedom and we want flexibility. Yeah. And then when we get into it, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm working more in my business than I was, working a 9-to-5 job. And I know that that's true of you as well.
Yeah, because it does. It turns into a job, but it's even worse. We get all the job and the stress. Yeah. Right. So it's different than a normal job.
It is very, very true. And listen, I don't know about you, but I know for me, for a while, it really true. It took over not just 9-to-5, but I would carry that over into dinner conversations and to late night working, of just catching up and doing all the things. The freedom and flexibility that I had, that I thought I was getting, wasn't necessarily what I got at first.
Yeah. And don't forget the wake up at 2 a.m. going, right. Yeah. What else didn't you get done, or what else you need to think about? Right. So it's a 24/7 job.
Yeah. Well, and now what I love is, of course, we use the Entrepreneur Operating System in ours as well, or EOS. And, the beauty of that is now when I wake up at 2:00 in the morning, it's because I have an exciting thought that I really am like, oh my goodness, we hadn't thought about this.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that a lot. Well, I know you kind of talked a little bit about how, you were running the business and it was all relying on you. And my interpretation of what you just said too is that you were the bottleneck for a lot of things because, everything had to filter through you. And oh, I understand that stress, and not just from our side, but from the team side as well too, right? They're waiting for you for everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it just, again, all the best of intentions, you just can't get to everything, right?
Exactly.
And then when stress adds up, time goes away, and then we knee-jerk reaction to do something whether we want to do it or not, and we're living with the outcomes. And
Yeah.
so I think that to your point, I think a hard piece of from a really breaking through as a business owner is finding the right people and letting go. I think finding the right people and having the right expectations and the right communication is one thing. I mean, that's the key that unlocks most things. But then letting go and letting them and trusting them to take ownership is the really the end piece that is tough for many founders.
I could not agree more. John, I'm really curious. What are some tools that you used, or what are some tips that you have in your back pocket that you share with people about how to do that? Because that is such a big piece for so many founders, owners, visionaries that are looking. They want to, but
Mm-hmm.
how do they do that?
I think unfortunately, there isn't a silver bullet for all of it because depending on the size, the complexity of the business, there are many great operating systems. There isn't one that's the best, right? I think there are so many, they're just proven principles, whether it's EOS, Bloom Growth, which is what I'm a part of now, which I love and breathe, but scaling up, Pinnacle, all those have, it's all about getting some structure around what your future holds and then sharing it with everyone, making sure everyone's on the same page with what your plan is for the future, what you envision for the company, and then having them be on the same page so that we can all roll in the right direction. And then, that's step one. Step two is, are we living the same values? Do we all have share the same core values that that we can all stand with and live with? And do we know what we're supposed to be doing? Do we have job descriptions that are discrete, that maybe focus on what we're really good at and what we love doing? That's a whole nother level, which I will love to get into, about actually enjoying your job. How about that? Wouldn't that be something? And about maybe if we really enjoy it, how good are we really going to be at it?
Yeah.
There's just, it's all signed up together to get that done. And really it's then letting go and trying to give the tasks to the right people who love doing it, can do a better job at it.
Yeah.
And, and that's really the entrusting part is leading up to that. And then ultimately having a team dynamic where trust comes into play more than anything, and not trust that someone's going to steal from you, but trust that people can say riskful things, meaning, hey, let's take some risks together. Let's communicate to each other that I don't think your idea is the best, but let's talk about it. Right. Because many times, again, a visionary like us, right, we have all these ideas, we say something and it might not be a good idea, but if we don't give our team a chance to actually push back a little bit, we might go down this path and, that may take us a year to finish. And then we realize, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Right? So, I think it's the trust part is that we can all say what we feel
Yeah.
in a loving way, if it's for the betterment of the company.
Agree. And I think another, on the opposite side of that is not just maybe that it was a bad idea, but also that they have really great ideas that can add to it.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, if you're not creating an open atmosphere for people to be able to contribute, then you may be kind of keeping yourself in a box because they're only executing your ideas, but not building on it and coming up with more.
Absolutely. And I've seen so many people get frustrated. It was such a good idea. We're not doing it. Well, did you say it? In a confident way?
Yeah.
Because that takes time for some people that haven't had that culture. It takes time for people to get the courage to say something convincingly, to your point,
Yeah.
for them to be heard. And again, again, the biggest hurdle is just getting the owner to realize that they're not the only one that has ideas.
Yeah, that is very, very true. How do you think, like, because I don't know about your experience, but in my personal experience, the hardest letting go is when they find a second in command leader, whether that's an integrator, chief
Mm.
operating officer, president, whatever title that is used. But that particular relationship, because a lot of times they can let go to operations, they can let go to, an administrative team. And
Mhm.
the two struggles I see is, number one is letting go to the second in command leader, and then letting go of sales, because sales for an owner is a big one too, right?
It's generally what gets their sauce, right? That's how they got where they are.
Yeah.
And I think to your point, it's easy to give away stuff that they hate doing, right? Yeah. Do I want to manage an order? No. Do I want to enter? No, I don't want to do any of that stuff. That's easy. And but when it's something that, like we said, that's what the heart of the business. That's how we got here. Um, or it's the sometimes it can be fun to talk about the finances, not necessarily getting to where we are in the finances with the rigmarole and stuff, but it is fun to be a part of that, depending on who you are, because we're all wired a little differently. And I think one thing that happens, depending on the size of the company, is one, finding out your second in command. Many times companies, when they realize this, they don't have the funding or a perceived funding to hire someone that has the top line expertise, that knows how to run a P&L, that knows how to manage people, that is a leader, that can really turn large strategic ideas into, putting them into action. So many companies will hire from within, pull someone from within. And I've seen the frustration of saying, I thought I had the right person, but I didn't. And so the key part, I think, is patience. Because most of us, again, because we're all looking for something to let loose, right? I want some time. And so I've seen it time and time again. And again, patient number one is handing something over and be like, whew, all right, I'm done. I can move on, right? Because it's just finally off my plate. But when I don't take the time and have the patience to train and sit with them, that's when it can go south. Not even quickly, because they don't even realize it, because you're just letting stuff happen and the frustration grows. They don't do it how you do it. Well, did you actually show them? Nope. Because most of us don't take the time. We're not great managers. And so I think there's just a couple different, one of the ways is, again, you have to stay with it. It's not like you flip a switch and they're going to take it over, regardless of how much experience they have, right?
Exactly.
You can't just do that. And I've seen it time and time again, because it's a safety valve. Finding the right person is such an amazing experience, but it doesn't happen overnight.
I totally agree with that. And again, even when you do find that right person, they need to learn you and who you are as a visionary, and how to fulfill your dreams and your vision. They need to learn your company, and even if it's a person in the same industry, they still need to learn how you do things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it does take time. It's not an overnight fix, but it is, if this is a relationship that you work on, it can become one of the most beautiful and powerful duos to really execute.
No, and actually you nailed that. And that's one thing too, is taking the time to be on the same page. Because there can be really good people that are great at running whatever the business is. But if they're not following it on the same page where the visionary is going, it creates a total divide with the company and frustration. And so taking the time to, different people do different ways, whether it's an hour a week, whether it's 4 hours a month, whether it's 8 hours a month, or once a quarter, is really being on the same page, not just business wise, but as a human being, because the passions have to flow through properly. And it's really the second in command. They're the ones that really make it happen. And, I will say one thing, by the way, that I do love about Bloom Growth is they putting the visionary and the second in command side by side. So not to make it anything other than, there isn't one higher or better than the other, because in my opinion, the second in command is the one that's really running the company. And so sometimes when you have someone else above them, it can take away their power in the eyes of some of their folks. And so I love the idea of them being a team, a partnership in that way,
Yes.
figuratively or literally, right? However you want to slice that.
Yeah.
But that's why the same pageness to me is so key.
I love what you said. And so I want to bring some clarity because we kind of, so what John is describing is the accountability chart or the organizational chart of how the visionary typically is above the integrator. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and I absolutely thought that her idea of this was amazing. What she said is not only do they sit by side, but there's a continuous loop with them, right? To show like this is a partnership. I have a dear friend who always refers to her visionary as that's my boss. That's my boss. And I'm like, oh, that just hurts my heart, right? My heart just
Oh,
breaks because I'm like, if you're referring to that person as my boss, it really is not showing the partnership
right.
between these two roles.
And actually, I hate that word, and I don't ever use the word hate. But this one is to me. Actually, I just erased it. My son had written on here a year ago, "Be an amazing boss today," and I just left it up because it was cute and fun. But it's like that doesn't define me in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Um, Not even just within our organization, but just how I operate. Um, I totally agree. We're a partnership in all parts of the business, right? Yes, you do have a manager that you report to that helps you. But it should be that they're your
Exactly.
like chief helper, right? Not who I bow down to or am accountable to, any of that sort of thing. So I appreciate you bringing up the word boss.
Yeah, no, and I love that. And I love that you just said accountable because what I was going to say is this is not like one person holding the other accountable. It's the two of them holding each other accountable for
Mhm.
the success of the business, right? How are we moving this organization together forward?
Yeah, and I like to flip even the word accountable. Because to me sometimes that's an icky word too, where accountable means if I don't do this, I'm fired. Well, that's partially
Mhm.
true, but if what if we talked about um, helping, right? What if it's
Mhm.
we're helping get things done to flip that, right? So instead of again, and it's like lead, manage, hold accountable. It's hey, lead, manage, and help our team win. No, that to me is just I don't know, more of a freeing feeling, and empowering as as a team because that's all we do in business is teamwork, right?
I love that. I might change mine to LMW. Lead, manage, win.
No, there you go. Yeah, yeah,
I like it. I like it. Well, John, I know one of the things that I get so excited every time we get to talk is talking about Working Genius and how it plays into all the things that we're talking about. I am incredibly passionate about Colby and Working Genius and Predictive Index. Those are the three assessments that
sure.
I love. And I would just love, like, when we're talking about these things about trusting and building the right team, like Working Genius is a huge part of that for me. But if nobody's ever like heard about Working Genius and what it is, how do you describe that to them?
It one. Thank you for saying all three of those, right? Because I think none of there isn't a single assessment that is the end all be all.
Yeah.
And I think it's an and Working Genius for me. The reason what it is incredibly simple and it's a productivity tool. It is not a personality assessment. It's all about productivity. And the premise is, and it's Patrick Lencioni's work, right? And it's been brilliant. It's been proven out over the last 3 or 4 years by I think over 1 million now assessments. It is
Really?
about the happy cows make the best cheese. It's hey, if we actually enjoy and love what we do, how much more productive are we going to be at it, and how good are we going to be at it? And I
Mhm.
think it's one of I know many assessments they do a good job of trying to how do you communicate with someone or how do you work with the team. But I bet I've taken over 10 through my career. Right when I started with GE 20 years ago, and I've taken them all, and yet I get them, but I don't use them in language.
Mhm.
Some companies and some people really get that in their culture, but Working Genius to me is so simple because it's not just talking about what you love doing, what's your genius, and we all have two geniuses and we all have two frustrations, but it's about understanding easily what the team is good at. And all work follows the same process. So you see widget back here, right? It's wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, tenacity. Work follows the same flow. All work, even if we go to the grocery store, right? We all have to think about what we need. We have to think about, okay, what are we going to get? We have to get excited to go do it. We actually have to go do the work, right? All work follows it. And so when you put it in the context of work and the simplicity of productivity in our workday with our teams, it's the language that's simple that we got to understand. Where are we in the work? And where do I help best in that work based on what I love doing? And where do I, as the leader, by the way, where do I back out because my voice will be that much louder in a spot where it's my frustration? Because I'm just going to try to shut down the conversation because it's just not a thing that I enjoy doing. So I won't let innovation really shine through. So it's the most practical, in my opinion, of combining innovation and productivity in work and the human element. All right. Because it's really 80% productivity and like 20% personality. So when you overlay that with Colby, personality, the PI, all those things, right? It really is a superpower. And that superpower really is the simplicity. And you can integrate it with meetings right off the bat. You can implement it in the work every day right off the bat and really, really remove what I call, well, Patrick Lencioni started, but what we call, turbulence, right? Where should we be in the conversation? What altitude? Are we up here in pie in the sky? Are we down here getting down at ground zero trying to get the work done? Understanding where we are on that elevation is so key to a harmonious working environment and not burnout and crash and burn.
Yeah, I love two things about what you said. First of all, is talking about how like doing what you love and how it energizes you. I love to call that like that's my energy boost, right? It's like drinking 10 Red Bulls all at the same time. And I'm like super pumped to like, yes, I get to do this. And I get super excited. And then, but on the other side, when I'm working in my frustrations, it's like an energy vampire. It just sucks my energy and it's gone. And I'm like, ugh. I even getting ready to go into the meeting. If I know it's going to be one of those meetings, I'm like, muster up the strength and energy to go to this because I don't even want to go, more or less participate, right? So I'm not productive.
Right. Well, again, take you, for instance, right? You light up a room just by walking in, right? And part of that is your energy and your smile and you're in, right? And so if you're not, how good are you for, again, that's your superpower. And I remember when we found out when you were a visionary, remember that kind of based on some of this. So if you're not showing up that way, right, the whole team out, right? Yeah. Because you're a huge source of energy. And I don't know if you'd be willing, do you want to share your story with Working Genius when we first started going through this as an integrator and budding visionary?
My goodness, that's So when I was sitting in the integrator seat, what was my Working Genius? Do you remember? It was galvanizing, and I believe it was tenacity
it was like the what would be an integrator, right?
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure it was galvanizing and tenacity. And you just kept challenging that and saying, because wonder was in my frustration and invention was in my frustration. And you were like, are you sure? like you noticed in me. And I was just like, I don't know. And what we realized is when I was taking the assessment, I really was sitting in an integrator seat with that thought process, right? And so I took it, and I'm 99.9% sure it was galvanizing and tenacity. Yeah. But when I retook it, it actually ended up being galvanizing and an invention. And now I can see that in myself. It's the same thing that I realized with the integrator continuum, where I was sitting on the wrong side of the continuum when I'm sitting in a strategic partnership position with my integrator, and we're having conversations. You keep me there, and you keep me where you were talking about, up in the sky or down deep, like in the actual weeds. That's where my energy comes from. And I get so excited that that's what we get to do today. If you keep me in now, can I do, the other sides of it? Of course, we all have to some degree, but it's just how much time do I spend there to either energize me or drain me?
No, absolutely. And again, thanks. For the courage to share that, because it's one, you're not the only one that when we go through this, And this is the key
Okay.
learning, is most people take assessments based on what they think they're either being hired for or what they're supposed to say.
Yeah.
And so from actually based on your learning, working with you, and another one of your very good friends, was I need to make sure that I overly emphasize with everyone when they take the assessment. That goes for anyone, right? It's literally $25. Go to workinggenius.com and do it. Please do.
Yes.
But
It's
take it
wonderful.
from a place of joy. How many people actually give a shit, apology, about you liking your work, right? We take it based on what we think we're supposed to say. And so if we really, really answer it with what we love doing, it can be so freeing. Because I mean, look what you're doing now, right? You are living the invention and galvanizing space. That's what you're doing now. And and again, it's it can be so freeing for people. And again, and one portion of me, what really pulled me to Working Genius was an employee of mine that is in a worker bee role, right? Enablement tenacity type role. And I was always frustrated because he would come to work and treat it as a 9-to-5 job. Not even, right? He said that, hey, this is a means to an end. He was my second employee, right? He's hilarious. We have a ball, but would also frustrate me by, hey, I'm not taking my work home. Not that I say we all need to do that, but there are times when, hey, we need your help.
Yep.
And then when he took the assessment, and he's a wonder and invention, and no wonder the guy's, not far from retirement, and you realize he's been doing this his whole life because he has the old worker bee mentality. So he's just doing the work, and that's why it's just work. And that to me was just like the soul crushing thing that, he's not in a position where he's like, I'm going to go change. He's like, I'm aware now. And so what do we get to do when we have something fun and creative that we're trying to do, some new initiative, that we pull them in. And so it's, that to me was just like, oh, this can't happen. We got to get to people sooner. And now they actually have teenager type assessments, or children, not quite children, but they do have assessments for younger ages.
That's amazing. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Can you imagine going to college and knowing what you want to do? Can you imagine going out of high school and really, really knowing? I don't know how anyone's supposed to know what they really want, but what you really, really enjoy doing. You think about what, me as a parent, right? I've got 4 kids, and my oldest is now in high school. Holy smokes. But how much we get on them. You don't do your homework. You got to do your homework. And, because we're trying to teach them from our learnings of like, I was never good at this. So you need to bust your butt and do it. And so therefore they begin to think they're not good. And that's ENT work, right? That's just, no, I got to finish the math assignment. I got to do this.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean they're not good at something else. All right. Or they don't enjoy doing something else. So, that part, the sooner we can get that message out and get people doing what they love doing, God forbid, how much better the work environment would be. You wouldn't have the crab apple that everybody knows. Don't go to him today. He's in a mood, whatever. If people are actually be doing what they love doing.
Oh, I love it. And that was what I loved about what you said earlier too, is when you were talking about like taking the assessment, knowing what you want to do. Like an entire organization where every person is doing what they love to do. Oh my goodness. One of the mind-blowing moments for me, and it was many years ago, but one of the things that I thought about was, there are things that I'm doing in my job right now. And at that point, it is a job when there are things you hate to do, right?
Yeah.
But I'm doing this job, this task that I don't like to do. And of course, if you're familiar with delegate and elevate, that's below the bar for me, right? I just don't enjoy it. But what the aha moment that I had was, there are people that particular task is above the bar for them. Like it is in their things that they love to do, that they're great at doing. Why am I holding on to these things that I'm not good at, don't like doing, when that's above the bar for somebody else? And that's what I was thinking, man, if all of our organizations could have somebody that was widget doing what they love to do, task orient, like these are the things that they love to do in the job, quote unquote job.
Yeah.
It's no longer a job, but this is they enjoy it and they're excited and their energy is up and everybody is excited about it.
Oh, yeah, you nailed it. I think that's the other thing that I kind of mentioned how simple it was. The simplicity in getting an organization wrapped around it, right? And mapping out your team so hey, we really need to come up with a new idea. Things are stagnant. We know who to pull in. We don't get frustrated because no one comes up with ideas. We know who we pull in. When we have a strategic project going on, we know who's going to help us get it to the finish line, right? There's just such a simple and easy way around that, and pulling from all parts of the organization. It doesn't have to be someone's job. We can look at, hey, where's their strengths? You know what? You're in accounting, but you know what? We need someone to finish this spreadsheet in sales. Wow, you do spreadsheets all day. Why don't you help us over here?
Mhm.
I think that is the beauty of Working Genius to me, because it is. And really, if you're just focused on your own geniuses and knowing what your own geniuses are, or knowing what your own Colby is, you're getting 20% of the power, if that, right? It is, how are we utilizing this all together? And that's the goal, to your point. That's when lift the top off.
Exactly. And I want to just add to something that you said earlier too, is I know so many organizations that they just take one assessment after the other, right? Just one after the other. And they literally take it, look at the results, put it to the side. Take it, look at the results, put it to the side. And it's just like this machine, right?
Yep.
And I encourage people, I talked about this a lot last year at Summit, is a big aha moment that I had last year is please stop taking assessments. Just for a second, calm down. All
Yeah.
4,800 of them are telling me the same thing. Why am I continuing to take another one? But slow down. Instead of taking it and putting it to the side, look at it, understand it, and utilize it, right? Because you can take Working Genius, you can take Colby and Predictive Index, but if all you're doing is taking it, looking at it, and putting it to the side, it's not going to be beneficial for you. Implement it.
Yes. And that implementation, thank you for saying that, because the implementation is one. Many times teams will go the next step and have like a team health day or a team day, which is great, right? That's getting it kicked off. How do we interact with each other? This is mine. What does yours look like? That's a great first step.
Yeah.
However, most of us go back to doing our job. And so how do you keep coming back to that is either just use the language daily, or coming back to, right, or having some sort of a playbook or something that's posted so that, as leaders, we have to use the language or it's going to go away.
Yeah.
And so I think that is, keep it in the daily. To your point, integrating it to me is, in a year, we all know that what we talked about a year ago, we are all using it, living it, breathing it. It's not a document that gets buried, to your point.
Oh, I love that. One of my favorite things that I saw is there was a company I was working with recently, and we were having conversation around Colby and some different things that they were going to do, and they actually had everybody on their desk had a plaque with their Colby score on it.
Oh,
And the thing that was going through my head is, oh, like we could take this one step further and have Colby and Working Genius and Predictive Index. And now when somebody walks into your office and sees these three things, they know how to like conversate and like, oh, you know what? I am working on something where I'm needing this particular, and they can pull you in those places. And yeah, it got me super excited.
No, absolutely. And that's one thing that we do on the Working Genius side is that, they created a playbook so that your team, each division, your team, we have all yours on the same sheet. And when we create triggers that we know where we're short on a team, if we're short on some innovation, okay, well, when it's time for that, we're going to use that language and we're going to shift our mindset, right? And so I think there's a big a piece of that too, just within the teams of documenting them together.
Yeah, I love that.
Cool.
John, I do have one question for you. Like, obviously, if someone has an established business, then, they have team members that are already part of it. And so, like, they just taking the assessment is wonderful. But what about somebody who is like hiring a new position or a new person to fill a position? Where in the like interviewing process or is it the interviewing process? Do you wait until they're hired to take it? I get this question all the time from clients. I would love to know your thoughts and opinions on that.
Yep.
When should people take an assessment?
Well, I think for us is, I like to make sure, one, what does the role require? right? Number one, what do we think the ideal-ish? And I know many assessments say, oh, there isn't an ideal for one, and that's true. But there are certain things that are more suited to certain roles. So does the job description point you to somewhere of what that would look like?
Mm.
That's the case, which I appreciate. I would urge people to do, and we can do that and actually rephrase our job descriptions in the form of joy. Like, what do you really enjoy doing versus can you do or whatever,
Mhm.
or are you good at versus hey, no, I love doing it. All of us get good at doing things just because that's in our jobs. We figure out a way to get it done. But what do you love doing? So that's one thing. Can we change that? Secondly, if the job description points to one or to a few things, then I would say in the hiring process, yes. And then also I say, what does the team look like? What's the team
Mm.
dynamic need? If we're all the same mindset, right? How do we need to round out the team? And it doesn't mean we use this to hire someone. It's another tool for us to recognize who we're trying to hire, right?
Yeah.
How are we going to fit with the team, et cetera. So I do like it in the hiring process. I don't like to use it as the only means for sure.
I could not agree more. Yeah. I know for me personally, when I came down to 2 or 3 candidates that it was like, wow, these are all 3 amazing and they're equal in their experience and education and like all of the things matched up. I love to use this in a way that was like, wow, do one of these candidates feel the missing piece on our team?
Yeah.
It's just such a great way to see how you're going to round out your team. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. John, I knew our conversation was going to be so much fun.
It's always easy with you, Kristie.
Oh, well, it's always easy with you too, friend. And you know what? I think you and I are two that we could talk for like 3 days
Yeah,
and still be like not have enough time. So,
I agree.
so thank you for coming on today. We're going to wrap up our conversation today with my rapid fire questions. And so, honor, empower, inspire means a lot to me. So I'm really curious from your standpoint, who is a woman from a past generation that you want to honor?
I would say she's still alive. But I would say my grandmother on my dad's side. So my grandma Nancy, she's a mother of 7, and she skipped 2 grades when she was in high school. She's just brilliant artist, all those things. But she dealt with my grandpa, who's I fall from his line, so I know how difficult it can be with us. And 7 kids, as they started different businesses. And she has just always been the nicest, kindest human being that's ever walked the earth.
Mm.
And now she's getting to the age where things are starting to fail with sight, right? She's been an artist and an amazing artist, and now her sight doesn't allow her to do that anymore. So I want to honor my grandma, Nancy Glon. She's a shining star.
Oh, I love that. I love that. My grandmother is mine as well. What about empower? What is a woman of today, a woman that is in business today that you would just love to be able to empower or that empowers you? And how does she do so?
One that comes to mind that is near and dear to both of us would be Julie Lunsford.
Oh.
Because she and I connected on our journey as a virtual assistant years ago. And she's just an amazing human being raising her 4 daughters. And just all along the way, as we're both trying to figure out what gives us joy in life, she is now starting a journey that I'm hoping can believe in herself to really bring the working genius framework to the world, and also just whatever humanity, because she is just she's an amazing human being, and is willing to take risks, and really I want to empower her to take risks more on herself.
You know what? I think that's beautiful because you're right. She is near and dear to both of us. And it was funny because when we started this, I was teasing you saying, you might get emotional in this part, and you made me emotional, honoring her. So thank you. I appreciate that. Julie is absolutely amazing. What about inspire? What is a woman of a future generation that you would really like to inspire?
Can I do 2?
You sure can.
One, because one is Nina Marchioni, who is in Great Lakes Essential Power. She is still current, but I think her future is yet to be written. And She is one of those that we hired out of school, and she can do anything and everything, and is always like, "What do you want to do? Whatever you need me to do." And she is dynamic, brilliant, and I can't wait to see what she can do in this world. And again, just an amazing human, funny, just fantastic. Because I was just going to go to my daughter at first, and I thought, you know what, there's Nina deserves a lot there too. But my daughter, Avery, is 12. She is a little bit of a mini me in, she started a lemonade stand when she was 5 by herself. She is constantly, making necklaces and trying to sell them. She's always coming up with ideas about something. She's got she's now a dog walker and all these things. And she's a gymnast, hardworking. And she's going to do some great things.
Oh my goodness. Well, she has a beautiful role model to help her get there. What a budding little entrepreneur you've got on your hands, friend. Y'all, thank you so much. Again, John, this was a fun conversation. I knew it was going to be, and you are going to be speaking at Summit, and I'm so excited to have you there. So I will see you again very, very soon.
I can't wait.
Well, thank you so much. This was a fun conversation. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next week.